we're going to get the square root of 20 underneath there. When you simplify what's under the radical, make sure you get 20. If not, you need to see what's going on. I forgot to square it up here, sorry. So I'm going to put that in the calculator, the square root of 20 for the nearest hundredth. I like to get that out of the way first. Square root of 20 is 4.4721 dot dot dot. Nearest hundredth, you want 2 decimal places. So I'm going to look at the third, and it's going to be 4.47. Then to do simplest radical form, I break it down to the biggest perfect square that goes into 20 is 4 times 5. And then the square root of 4 is 2, and the radical 5 comes down. So 2 radical 5 for simplest radical form. Okay, so now I'm going to review with you how you could do Pythagorean theorem versus distance formula for both of these. For FG, if we were going to use Pythagorean theorem, I would draw the vertical leg and the horizontal leg for a right triangle. You always have the option to draw it above or below. I drew it above, but if I drew it below, it would be the same 2 legs. So I have a length of 3 and a length of 4, and then this is a triple, so it would be easy enough to just know that FG was 5. Now, if I'm going to use the distance formula, I need to get the coordinates of F and the coordinates of G. The coordinates of F is 1, 2 over here. The coordinates of G is 5, 5. Okay, so under the square root symbol, I'll subtract the x's, so 5 minus 1 squared, plus I'm going to subtract the y's, 5 minus 2 squared, and then under the square root, my pen is being really bad. Under the square root, I'm going to get the square root of 4 squared, which is 16, plus 3 squared, which is 9, so the square root of 25, which is 5. So I get the same answer whether I use Pythagorean theorem or if I use, I don't know why this isn't letting me write, this is 5. Okay, I'm using my regular pen that I always use. I don't know why it's misbehaving for me right now. The second triangle, if I make my 2 legs, I would see that the 2 legs are 3 and 3, and I would have to use Pythagorean theorem to do 3 squared plus 3 squared equals the hypotenuse squared. So I'd get 18 equals c squared. So the square root of 18 would be c. And here it doesn't say simplest radical form or to round, so I'll just leave it square root of 18. Then inside the radical, if I was going to use the distance formula, I'd need that the coordinates of j right here is negative 4, 0, and the coordinates of k is negative 1, negative 3. So I could subtract the x coordinates, negative 1 minus negative 4. I could just put plus 4 because I know minus the negative. Plus, inside parentheses, subtract the y's, negative 3 minus 0 squared. And then, the pen's not working again. When I simplify what's under the radical, I get 3 squared plus negative 3 squared, which is 9 plus 9. So I would get the 18 under the square root again. And for some reason, it's not letting me write that underneath it, but that would be the answer. So I would get it using Pythagorean theorem or using the distance formula, same thing. Okay, now the question had said, I'm sorry, bad reading, find FG and JK. So we just found that FG is 5 and JK is the square root of 18. And then determine if FG is congruent to JK. Since their distances are different, they are not congruent. So I could write not congruent since length or distance is not equal. Not congruent since the length is not equal. So that's kind of getting you ready for what we're going to be doing next week with the proofs, using distance formula to show that sides are either congruent or not congruent. Okay, and lastly, this is what we did in the beginning of the year, the perimeter, but we used the Pythagorean theorem to find all three lengths. Here, I'm going to plot the 3 points and see -4, -2. And I'm just going to use distance formula. So I'm sorry that I drew it poorly. Using AB, so A is 2, 5, B is 6, -1. And I'm going to subtract the x's, so 6 minus 2 squared, plus subtract the y's, -1 minus 5 squared. Okay, inside the square root, that's the step it doesn't want to let me do with the pen. Inside the square root, it is 4 squared, which is 16, -6 squared, which is 36. So 36 plus 16 is 52, so it's going to be the square root of 52. And it's not letting me. Sorry, I started over so many times because this was happening. So that first one is the square root of 52. Or maybe it'll let me write it there. Circle it and bring it to where it belongs, right there. I'm not going to simplify it yet. It says to round to the nearest tenth for the final answer. So I'll take care of that at the end. For BC, I'm going to use the coordinates of B, which is 6, -1 again, and C, -4, -2. Under the radical, subtract the x's, -4 minus 6 squared, plus subtract the y's, -2 minus -1 squared, negative minus 1, so I put plus. So under the square root, I'm going to put, if you put it inside the calculator, just instead of me doing it in my head that you can't see inside my head, I'll put the parentheses. I've got -4 minus 6 outside squared plus inside parentheses the -2. I could have put minus -1, but instead I put +1, so I'll just write that. And I get the square root of 99. Oh, look at that. With the split screen, it's letting me write where I want to write. And then the CA, I need to use the coordinates from C and A. So -4, -2, it doesn't matter the order that I use the point. If you used the 2, 5 as the first point and -4, -2 as the second point, it would be fine. So I'm subtracting the x's, 2 minus -4, so 2 plus 4, and 5 minus -2, so 5 plus 2. I could put what's underneath the underneath the parentheses, 2 plus 4. I could have just written 6. Squared plus inside parentheses 5 plus 2, or you could just write 7 squared, and I get 85 for that. So now for perimeter, I would have to add them all together. So we may as well not round each one, just at the end, put all 3 radicals. I forgot the plus sign first. And then after that one, I'm going to do plus the square root of 85. And what did they tell us to round to? The nearest tenth. So it's 26.38. So the 3 will round up to 4. So that is the perimeter of triangle ABC. I apologize for my children screaming in the background. There is a thunder and lightning storm outside right now, which I'm sure you're experiencing also. After you complete this lesson, please turn in the lesson filled in and the worksheet that goes along with it. There's 4 problems.